All right, this week on Self Starters, we have Taylor Reed. Taylor is a creator that has blended his love of outdoor adventure and reading into his unique taste of style and exploring the boundaries of men's fashion. Definitely explores the boundaries of men's fashion. Can't say that enough. Taylor has also founded a consulting business. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's not necessarily founded entirely by me. It's something I started exploring naturally. You know how it goes with friends and family asking for advice and that kind of thing. And my parents actually have a consultancy. And so they both do wildly different things. They've had crazy careers. And so they've recently kind of said, okay, you've been doing this on your own. Let's fold you in. And so you have our processes. You can learn about how we do payroll, learn about the infrastructure, and just kind of have it as a teaching experience and also funnel it through them.
Well, a lot of businesses that start isn't just like, hey, we have this idea, let's go start it. It's something that you're doing. Like before we got on the mics, I was telling you were asking me, like, what's your daily? And I was telling you about, everything with real estate and how I also consult with young founders. And I didn't just have this idea, let me go consult with young founders. I had one that was asking me for advice, 2, 3, and now it becomes just a advice and mentorship to now I'm actually part of said company.
Yeah. You formalize it.
Right, and now I'm on Zooms, emails, giving advice here, creative direction there, and now helping their brands grow. And it didn't just come about, it formulated.
Yeah, it's organic. It kind of grows. And I think that's, a virtue of networking well, really focusing on the people aspect of it and not just trying to make a buck and just actually caring about what you're doing. Is that eventually you realize, I'm actually good at this. I can offer this as a service and reach more people and be compensated fairly for my time.
And a big part of that is doing what makes you happy.
Yeah, always. Just following whatever path it is.
I love it. So let's bring it back a little bit.
Yes, sir.
A lot of it. Where did this all begin? Where did your love for adventure begin, which then kind of rolled into your career?
The adventure thing, I think it's just kind of been natural. I did a bunch of sports as a kid. I started off in combat sports, so karate, taekwondo, boxing.
This is at what age?
I started at age 4 with karate. Just it was kids karate, the basic stuff. But I got really into taekwondo as a first degree black belt, just super fun. And then that carried over into boxing and then a bit of Muay Thai in college. But I was just
glazed over. You're a black belt.
Yeah. I mean, it was I was young. It wasn't a super it's not jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu black belts are hard. Taekwondo black belts are you can do your forms, you can kick hard. It's pretty straightforward.
How long does it take to get a taekwondo?
It took me 7 years.
How long does it take to get a jiu-jitsu black belt?
I have no clue. That's there's all kinds of prestige in that. Yeah, it's severe. And I have so much respect for those guys. But that's how my athletic journey started. And then I tried to get into team sports. I was never really good, one, with hand-eye coordination, 2, with the team aspect, because I was so focused on pushing myself that I'd often just kind of zone out. I played rec basketball, didn't make a single shot all season, didn't hit any homers in baseball, didn't get a single goal in soccer. But I was running really fast. I was training super hard with weights and that kind of thing. And so I was this kind of feels more like me. And then when I was 10, I got into endurance running. And so I did this concurrently with combat sports. They fit together pretty well. And that led me to triathlon. That led me to being competitive in that realm, did cross country, and then I've kind of stuck with that. And so naturally from there, you get outside, you want to go hiking.
What was it like as a child when you're trying all these things, you're seeing what you're good at, what you're not good at? What were your parents like?
They were role models. That's the thing. I don't think I would have been into it if they weren't doing it. So my dad, some of my favorite pictures of my dad are from when I was a toddler and he was doing triathlons. He was out there training. He loved training. This was his whole life because he almost went D1 in football and he fractured his neck.
Really?
That actually ended up leading him to his career, so it was a good thing, which is that's how life goes. But he was training super hard as a kid. My mom was training hard. She was running a bunch. And so I saw them do that, saw them find fulfillment through athletics. And I was like, yeah, of course I want to do that. I want to be like them. And so I followed that route. I remember when I was 5 years old, my dad was in the garage doing calisthenics, just push-ups, sit-ups, basic stuff. And this was the big turning point for me as I went in there and I was like, hey, that sounds cool. Can you teach me how to do this? And so he became my mentor with fitness. And so I was doing push-ups, sit-ups, basic stuff every day from the time I was 5.
So... Yeah. You're literally, it's in your genes. It's
the family
your DNA.
culture.
It's who you are. It's family culture. So you dive into it deeply in high school. What was it like going to college? Did you continue that? Were you a D1 athlete?
I didn't go D1. I went and I joined the triathlon team. I went to Boston University. And I didn't try. I actually got recruited for rowing briefly. I did 1 season of rowing to try to get into college. I got recruited at Columbia.
Did you?
And then did not get in.
Did you row in high school?
Yeah, did one season because I was trying to use it to get into college, just as an extra little boost.
Did it
effectively?
Work?
No.
Oh, I thought they were just saying it worked.
I got recruited. I didn't get through with it because I'd only done it for one season. They weren't super happy with my form. They were happy with my times because I was just I rowed lightweight, and I'm 6'1", and there weren't a lot of lightweight rowers, which means you have to be under 155 that were my height. So I had a natural advantage in that way, but my form sucked.
What exactly does that mean? Like on a crew team, is there per boat you have to have people in certain weight classes?
Totally different divisions. So you have a division that's under 155 on race day. You get weighed that morning, and then you have a division that's more open.
What was it like cutting weight?
Sucked.
Yeah. Wait, so the crew team has to cut weight? I did.
That. Not everyone did. I think myself and one other guy really had to because he was about 6 foot. I was 6'1". And, if you're shorter, you just carry a little bit less weight. You can be really muscular and not weigh as much as a dude who's 6'1".
And listen, I wrestled for a year. I didn't actually ever wrestle in a match. It was just senior year.
Yeah.
I played football, and my coach was the JV wrestling coach.
Yeah.
And just because I wasn't doing anything during the winter season.
Yeah, you stay busy.
To stay healthy, he let me. I was on the wrestling team, so I just trained with them, yada yada. And I had homies on the wrestling team, and I remember 15, 20 of us in a sauna.
Yeah,
half of them in garbage bags.
Yeah.
Chewing on gummy bears and spitting them out. Is it like that?
It's tough. It wasn't that bad, especially because it was just me. The other guy who had to cut weight, he was notoriously bad at it, so he'd be the morning of the race running around in trash bags, which was always kind of funny because he just didn't plan ahead for it. But the night before, I'd make a super hot bath and I'd just sweat, and then I'd weigh myself, sweat. The whole week before, I'd eat dried fruit and just protein. And, for reference, if you're listening to this, that's not healthy necessarily. This is a sport-specific thing that if you do it, you kind of commit to not being healthy in that regard.
Right, but is there a healthy way to do this?
To cut weight? Really? Not really, no. I mean, if you have to for your sport, it's the same thing I talk about because I talk a lot about fitness on the internet. And I kind of mentioned that, hey, some sports aren't necessarily fitness sports. They're training for a purpose, like bodybuilding.
Right.
Bodybuilders aren't necessarily fit for life, but they're incredibly good at what they do. And it's not the kind of thing that necessarily makes your body healthy long term, but they know what they want to do and they do it. So that's the way I kind of see cutting weight for sports that need it. Yeah.
And what was it like, especially for you, being the only one that essentially had to cut weight? How'd you stay focused? How'd you have the mental fortitude without having a team around you doing the same thing? I'm talking about being in a sauna with 15 other guys all rooting each other on, not rooting each other on in the sauna, but
there's a community aspect.
There's a community aspect of the weight loss.
Suffering together is better than suffering alone.
Right. So how did you have that tenacity?
I just had to. I don't know. If I showed up and I weighed more than I was supposed to, then the boat wouldn't get to row. And so I knew that I had 3 other guys. I was in a quad for most of the time, so I had 3 other guys counting on me, and I had to show up.
Big part of it was probably learn from your parents.
Yeah. I mean, I think with athletics, different people have different attitudes towards it. But whenever I needed to hit a time, whenever I needed to hit a weight, whatever it was, I just kind of made it happen, especially if other people were counting on me.
Amazing. So that then flowed.
That flows.
To not use a pun, but that flowed into college, and now you're on the triathlon team.
Yeah, I was at that point. I ended up losing my love for triathlon because I'd been competing really, really high level throughout high school, and I just burnt out. At first it was fun. It was I have these buddies. They're all pushing me to run faster. I'm pushing them to run faster. We're all training hard together. And then when it became about showing up and winning races versus pushing yourself to be better, I just lost interest.
So what did you do?
I just kept running. Running primarily. On the triathlon team, I stuck around and kind of supported the group, but mainly did running stuff with them. You can do relays, so I'd relay the run part. And then transitioned to actually bodybuilding because I'd gotten so lean and skinny from running that I got really sick freshman year from how hard I was training and just kind of how sickly I was. So I focused on gaining some weight, gaining some muscle, trying to get to a healthy weight, and then that became a pursuit to just get really big, which was super fun.
How focused did you get on changing your diet and staying focused on a diet?
That was everything for a whole semester. I was eating 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day at one point. That was the worst of it. Yeah. Because I had the dining hall, so I would get up.
Right, but 4,000 to 5,000 calories,
packing it in. Yeah.
That doesn't even sound healthy.
No. I did a dirty bulk. So I just kind of like ate everything in front of me that I could get. So I took a mass gainer shake every day. It was 1,500 calories. I'd eat like 3 to 6 turkey burgers, like a whole plate of eggs or 2, yogurt, tons of yogurt, cereal, like anything I could get my hands on all day. Because I was just training a ton. I was in the gym for like 2 hours a day.
And how much weight are you putting up at this point?
I got up, for like pushing weight?
Yeah.
What are your lifts at? So it was all hypertrophy. So instead of trying to do more weight, I was trying to do it slower with more mind-muscle connection. So if I could feel, for example, in my chest, like every bit of my pecs and what they were doing in the movement, and I could keep that tension on for as long as possible, that's how I knew I was going to get bigger.
My mind's blown. 5,000 calories is a lot.
Yeah, I didn't do it often. It was like there were a few weeks where I was really pushing it, and then I hit 190. So I'd gone from like 150 to 190 in the span of like 6 months. It was a huge build, and it was like honestly unsustainable. Like I felt really sick most of the time.
Yeah.
And then my weight dropped down to about 170, which is a happier point.
Now with all this, full natty or you have
full natty?
Cycle?
Yeah, never touched anything.
You swear?
Swear.
Pinky swear?
100%. That one.
Oh, there we go.
It's like I think I got to a point with it where I was considering competing, and I had a conversation with a guy who was a coach, and he was like, look, if you really want to do this, you're going to have to start messing with your body. And I was like, that's a line for me. Like, yeah. Because the downstream effects of it suck. It's not something I want in my life.
Yeah, but like anyone who's doing that isn't talking about the future. They're thinking about the now.
No, and I think I had a difference in my mindset there. Because bodybuilding to me wasn't something I was going to do as a sport. It was something I was doing to get my body to a point where I was, healthy, happy, comfortable. And it was fun to get bigger. It was fun to put on muscle and try to build that, but it wasn't anything other than fun. So the guys that were like, I want to do this, I want to get my IFBB card, I want to really be out there, they were in a totally different mindset than I was.
100%. They were in a, we're going to do whatever it takes to get to the top of that mountain, and like literally whatever it takes.
Yeah, you rip your body apart for that. And so I respect their journey. I'm not going to judge them on it, but that wasn't for me.
Do you, one, are you still homies with any of them, and 2, do you follow them on IG?
Yeah, so a lot of the guys from that era, we all ended up powerlifting instead, and so I did that for about a year, which is super fun, and so I'm still connected with the powerlifting guys. That's kind of like, that was the group I ended up with. Those guys are sweet. They're so fun.
The guys that were really tearing up their bodies, do you know how they're doing now?
No clue. No, because I think the mindset split is so different where like I'd talk to them in the gym and I just didn't get along with them anymore because I would be kind of concerned for them. Where if I hear a guy saying, oh man, like this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm intaking right now, this is what my training schedule is, I was just like, dude, that sucks. You don't want to be around it necessarily. So
what do you take right now? Any supplements?
Nothing? Nothing. Not at all. I do protein occasionally. Okay. I mean, this is an electrolyte today because it's 1,000 degrees outside, as it has been recently.
What's your electrolytes choice?
This one is none because I got it for a hiking trip over the weekend, and I was just in Target, and I didn't have anything.
Is that a salt base?
It's, I think, salt and some other stuff. It's a little tablet. Yeah. I've been using it since I did triathlons. Very solid.
Yeah, they have good branding.
They have good branding. I think, honestly, for electrolytes, as long as you're getting some, like, you could just do Himalayan salt or, like, sea salt.
That's what I do every morning.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, big jug of water, sea salt, maybe squeeze a little lemon in there.
Yeah, not complicated.
No, get the day started.
But for this, I wanted something I could bring with me so that on the top of the mountain they had a water station, so I wanted to bring something I could just drop in.
Nice. So let's get to that.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? So, like, college.
We're following this long route.
Yeah, I love the long route.
Yeah.
This long trail, we'll say.
Yeah, as it is.
So, let's keep going down the trail. So, you're doing powerlifting. You're going through college. You stop running with the team, but now you start running by yourself.
Yeah. And so at this point, I got injured. That was like a big shift. Huh. And through the whole time, I started hiking freshman year of college for fun, just kind of going out on the weekends. So I went to school in Boston. So it was about a 2-hour drive to New Hampshire to go hike in the White Mountains, which are gorgeous. And I did it mostly in the winter. Most people don't do it in the winter because it's just an extra element of danger. But I prefer actually taking layers off when I get too warm in the winter versus being too hot in the summer. So like homeostasis-wise, like being warm, being comfortable, winter's a lot easier for me. And also, like, I had crampons, I had good gear, I felt very cozy. So I was hiking the whole time, and then I did too much running and too much powerlifting at the same time, and I messed my knee up. So I had a PCL strain, and then I tore some cartilage behind my meniscus. No, not behind my meniscus. I tore cartilage behind my patella. And so I had to take 6 weeks and just kind of rehab it. And at the end of it, I was like, yeah, I don't really want to do this lifting stuff anymore. It's kind of putting my body in a place where it's overstrained all the time. There are healthy ways to do it, but I realized running was a lot more fun. And so running, trail running, hiking, that kind of became the vision. And at the same time, I was discovering rock climbing. And so that fits in beautifully.
I'm seeing like an evolution of like you're going from indoor to outdoor, from the track to nature.
Yeah.
So now
I see it in a lot of runners. I mean, especially like if you're training at a really high level trying to hit times, you're spending a lot of time on the track, you're spending a lot of time on the street, and I think a lot of people over time get bored of that and they want to go have scenery.
What was your social life at this point, like throughout college? Because, you know, you're doing all these different sports. Are you hanging with everybody outside of the gym? Are you going on runs with people? Are you now picking up rock climbing with your friends, or are you doing it solo?
Yeah, it was a friend thing. Rock climbing with some friends that dragged me out there because I was complaining about how much I was sore all the time, and they were like, come try this. Like, it's fun.
Oh, they were doing it already?
They were crushing it. Yeah, they were all from Colorado. And so they'd been at it for years. They kicked my butt. And I thought I'd come into it being very athletic and, like, crush it, and I was totally, like, on my butt the whole time, falling off the wall literally every time I tried it, which was super fun. It's good to be challenged. But social life was, you know, I think pretty healthy for college. I didn't go out nearly as much as some people do. I'm not really built for that. I'm not that intensely extroverted. And I also don't love drinking that much. I don't love partying to that level because it just makes me feel like crap.
Amen.
Yeah, I don't know if my body's more sensitive to it or what, but it's tough.
It's just that you have the mental capacity that you figured it out at a younger age versus people who figure it out 10, 15 years later.
Well, I think it's the attitude, too. Like, it wasn't something where I kind of discovered it and was like, oh, this is the best thing ever. I have to go throw myself out there every weekend. There's definitely that FOMO, of course, like when you're staying at home and training versus going out and partying.
Totally.
But I kind of realized that I really appreciated more than going out to big parties and like going and being in some random basement somewhere with people I didn't know. I preferred hanging out with people I really liked. So if someone I knew was throwing a house party, I'd 100% show up and hang out and spend time with the people that I knew I wanted to be with.
Amen.
Yeah. I mean, I still partied enough. Like, college is college. You're supposed to.
But doing all this, what's your social media presence look like? Because
then it was just chill. Yeah.
So when did that flow into, you know, the growth of what you have now, but leading up to that? Because that's the crux of, and correct me if I'm wrong, the crux of how your business grew was you growing your social media presence.
Yeah. So it was an accident. Total accident, which is so funny. But I feel like a lot of people who find success in it did it accidentally or because they just wanted to share something they cared about, which is always fun to hear about. But
sounds like the same thing that you were talking about with your consulting business. Yeah. It happened accidentally, organically, just from doing what you do.
You start trying something new, and then it sticks. People care about it, and then you kind of build it out from there. So I studied biology and public health on the pre-med track, which I completed, did all of it. Like, I didn't take the MCAT, but shy of that, I finished it all because I was committed to completing it. And so you wouldn't expect me to be on social media necessarily, but I realized towards the end, I think of junior year going into senior year, that I was dressing terribly. Because, I mean, growing up in Florida, I wore board shorts more than I wore, like, pants or shirts even. Like, most of my life, I've been running around in, like, swim trunks. And so I was like, okay, I'm graduating soon.
You surf?
Yeah, man.
Oh,
yeah, of course. That's like, I don't even count that as a sport necessarily. The way I approach it, because I'm not out there trying to get better. I'm just out there having fun. So that's like a hobby.
Got it. So you surfing in Florida was kind of like me in Queens just riding my bike.
Yeah. It's like you go out there, you have a good time for a couple hours. Like, I don't take it too seriously. I like going on surf trips, but that's just like, I want to go be somewhere pretty for a week and, you know, drink a beer in the hot tub and surf for a few hours. It's pretty nice. But yeah, for content, I was just kind of like, I need to dress better. And I got excited about it because I had friends giving me cool stuff. So I had friends that were very into fashion that were talking about these designers that were shopping vintage, and they'd give me hand-me-down pieces. And so I made a video one day randomly. I woke up too early. I was going to go to my climate health class on like the graduate campus that day, and I knew I had a couple hours till I had to do anything. And I was like, you know what? I've been wanting to do something fun with this pursuit that I have of like trying to dress better. I'm going to put my camera down. I literally had like a little stool for my desk and a candle, and I propped it up there. And I just filmed myself throwing the clothing on, voiced it over like, hey, I just got this shirt from my buddy. Don't know how to wear it. We're going to try doing it with these pieces. Like, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm wearing it for today. Like, this is what I'm up to. Here's the process. And I posted it, and then it was weird because I wasn't on my phone all day. it was like a 30-minute bus ride to the graduate campus. It was kind of far away. And so I got on the bus, went to class, which was like a 2-hour course. And by the time that I got back and was looking at my phone, it was like 4 or 5 hours later, and everyone was texting me like, dude, you're blowing up on TikTok. Like, everyone's seeing this. And I was so embarrassed at first because I was like, oh my God, I'm being perceived by so many people. But then I was like, you know what, this is kind of fun. Like, a lot of the comments were people resonating with it in some way, saying, oh, this is cool, like, cool idea, I want to try this. Admittedly, I started the video in my underwear because I thought only my friends would see it, and so that was embarrassing. But I had people saying, like, what's your fitness regime? Like, what are you doing to train? And I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, people are actually curious about what I get up to. So I made another video, and I kept doing that every day. Just kind of was like, you know what, this is fun. It's a dopamine hit. People, like, want to see what I'm up to. That's, like, a really cool feeling. And so I kept at it, and I kept getting better at it, and then the brand deals came in.
How long ago was that?
Oh, my gosh. That was November of, I think, my senior year. So that was almost 3 years ago now.
So almost 3 years ago. So that's your formula.
That was the formula, was find something I care about, something I'm interested in.
But that's your formula now. You just kind of tweak it a bit.
Tweak it.
Sometimes, but that's your formula.
It's pretty simple. Because I was going in a different direction. At that point, I decided I didn't want to go to med school, but I had gotten admitted to Emory University, which is one of the best public health schools for public health.
Public health.
So I was going to study epidemiology. I had a great setup with the lab I was going to work with. They work with NASA, JPL, for like their air pollution imaging, which is like super cool. It was a total dream. But I was going to go into crazy debt for it. And I was like, you know what? I'll defer for a year. I'll do this content thing. I'll make some money and hopefully be able to support myself more. And then I loved what I was doing. I loved the business side of it. I loved the content side of it, the creativity. And I was like, you know what? I'll shelf grad school and just go all in and really focus.
So you kind of hit a turbo block. You play Mario Kart when you hit like a turbo block. Yeah. More so in this conversation where you just went from I made this video to I'm getting paid for content.
Well, that's how fast it was, too.
What?
Like, that's what it felt like. I think between the first time I made a video and the first time I got paid, it was like 1 to 3 months.
Stop.
It was fast.
Who was the first sponsor?
So it was, what's the name of the brand? Simulate, the chicken nuggets. They're like vegan chicken nuggets. And keep in mind, I was in college.
Yeah.
And so like I had a very small food budget monthly. And they were like, hey, we're going to pay you like $300 to make a video about this. And you get a giant like bag of like frozen chicken nuggets that are vegan, which I didn't really care at that time. And I was like,
I got the protein.
I asked my roommates. My roommates were like, dude, we want those. Like, do this collab. And so we had, for a month, we had just like chicken nuggets for dinner every night. It was super fun. So, worked out.
So that's about almost 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It was junior year. So you're doing that solo. And what I mean by solo is you're just bringing in these small brand deals.
Yeah. Not really getting paid what I was worth at that point either because I just had no frame of reference. I didn't think it was a job.
Right, but you're also on a track of going into public health.
Yeah. So I was like, every time I got paid, I was like, I'm banking this for tuition, which was a good attitude to have because I didn't go out and spend it on like cool stuff. I was like, this matters for something.
When was the point when you realized I'm not going to public health? I'm going to follow this content track. And what did your parents say?
That was almost over a year later, and it was because I was making really good money doing content. I was happy. I was having fun.
What was really good money? Because you're telling me that you're getting these BS offers and you're taking them. When did it turn to really good money?
It shifted. I got a year-long deal from Hollister, which was like a dream because they were my favorite brand in like high school. Like my buddies and I who would go surfing together, go like skimboarding, hang out at the beach. We'd get paid from our crappy little like random jobs that we did when we were like 14, 15, and we'd go buy like Hollister t-shirts and feel really cool. And so they came and they were like, hey, we want to do a year-long deal with you. It was a 5-figure deal. And I negotiated it with my parents. I brought in lawyers that I hired to review the contract and everything, and it was a very solid deal. Like, I was looking at research assistant jobs in public health, and it was going to be about 60% of what I would have made in a year doing that job.
And you wouldn't really be having that much fun doing it.
No, dude, they brought me on brand trips. Like, there were giant packages of clothing arriving that I could share with my friends because I couldn't wear all of it. Like, there was no physical way to, like, keep all that in my closet. So I'd bring stuff in, film with it, and then my buddies would be like, can I snag that? And I was like, yeah, dude, like, this is so much fun.
What does a brand trip for Hollister look like?
Oh, they were so much fun. They brought us to New York, and this is when I still lived in Boston. So we did a few days here. We actually went to their headquarters in Columbus, Ohio, which is super cool because they're like owned by Abercrombie. So It was like the Abercrombie Hollister headquarters. It was gorgeous. Those were the two main ones we did. But it was like great people. It was a great introduction to like being in the business. Just super fun.
After the year contract ended, did they not renew you, or you were just like, all right, here's what I'm worth now, so if you want to retain me, here's what it's going to cost?
We did some other work together, like on a more like per video basis, and then the teams kind of changed. The people that I was working with there weren't there anymore, and so the relationship changed, which I feel like it happens naturally, especially like in the PR industry and in media, is when there's turnover, when people kind of shift gears, then you end up not necessarily working with them in that capacity. But I've worked with some of the same people that were at that team at other brands now.
So while all this is going on, and now you're courted by Hollister, are you doing any modeling?
Not yet.
Not yet.
So they asked for my modeling rate, and so I was kind of like, okay, I can think about this now. And I actually got outreach from some like mother agents, which are people that are in the modeling industry. They kind of like, they mother you. They take you from like your very first job. They bring you to a bigger agency. They get you rep by them. They take a cut separately from what you take. And they kind of like act as your guardian in the agency, ideally, like if they're good at their job. So I had a few inquiries from them. None of them felt like the right fit, because I talked to some buddies that were modeling, and they were like, hey, if you want to get an agent, they should feel like your friend. You don't have to be friends with them, but you should feel like you could have that capacity, because you're going to be with them all the time. Like you're going to be talking to them every day if you're doing, very, very busy work, and you're going to need to like be on good terms with them. And I didn't feel that kind of connection. They all felt like good people to do business with, but it wasn't that kind of level of like, I can talk to you very, very comfortably.
Totally. I mean, a close friend of mine owns a modeling agency, and he is a model.
Yeah, George.
Sweet
dude. He and I had breakfast one time.
There you
go.
Great guy. And like George started his modeling agency being a model who now manages models. So like it's kind of like Big Brother, not boss or company owner.
It should be more collaborative like that. It should be like a nurturing environment, because it's a scary industry sometimes. Like you have people try to take advantage of you. You have weird situations.
If anything, people try and take advantage of models more than not.
Yeah. So I ended up kind of going more like, okay, I want to be rep by a big agency where I feel like I have infrastructure and can talk to a few people about what I'm dealing with. And randomly, my younger brother had been scouted by Wilhelmina, and they didn't end up working together because he was still in school. But I was connected with the agent, and he posted about scouting, and I was like, hey, dude, I'm actually interested if you want to chat about this.
And at this point, now you're in New York?
No, not yet. Still in Boston. This was like, I think, a year and change into the whole thing. And at this point, I decided, okay, public health school is not for me right now. I love what I'm doing. And it was kind of a crux moment where my parents even were the ones saying, dude, you got to commit to something.
That was my next question.
Yeah, you can't be half in, half out. If you want to make this happen, you're making good money. You have this opportunity to actually impact people through what you're doing on the internet. You can make of it whatever you want. If you want to do it, you have to commit to it. Or you can switch gears and commit to back what you were doing and go get your public health degree. And that's cool. I love that side of things. I was going to do environmental health, and I care about that a lot, care about making sure people are healthy. But that world is so fraught with tension right now. I was like, you know what? I love what I'm doing. I love the business side. I want to learn more about this. And I just jumped in. And so the modeling was additional to that. It wasn't taking away focus, because I can fold it in really nicely. And so I ended up talking to Wilhelmina, great people, and they ended up bringing me on.
Nice. Now, going to Wilhelmina and piggybacking on the conversation we were having about having a liaison who's more of a friend or companion versus just being a company trying to take advantage. They're a heavy hitter, if not the heaviest of hitters.
They're a heavy hitter.
Like when is there a modeling agency that's bigger than Wilhelmina?
I think the industry is so interesting, and it shifts a lot. And it depends on where you are regionally. So in New York, they're very big. Maybe in other cities, like there's another agency that has kind of dominance over that. But I think it really depends where you are in the world and what's happening at that time.
Got it. But at Wilhelmina, you don't feel it's just a small fish in a big sea?
I think you're going to feel like a small fish regardless in modeling, because like it's just like thousands of dudes that are way more handsome and cooler than I am. And that's just the reality of it. That's how it goes. George and I talked about this.
I bet everybody feels that way.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
We kind of chatted about that, and he was like, you got to be confident in yourself. And I am. I'm very happy with what I'm doing in that world. But I do think that having good people on a daily basis, like feeling like I can call them, email them, and be cared about, and like actually have them sit and be present with me and say, all right, what are your concerns? What do you want to work on right now? What are we doing good? What do you want to work with us on in the future? Like, what's your vision? They care about that, which is really important.
That's awesome, and that's probably why they have the reputation that they do.
Yeah,
and why they're able to stay at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's also like They have a bigger team. The men's team is smaller than the women's team, but the men's team still has a good few agents on it. And so I can chat to them individually and have different conversations where they each have different ideas, but they're all supportive. That's critical.
So you're happy with Wilhelmina?
Yeah, I'm happy there. It's good people.
Amazing. And when did, on the brand deal side, when did that start to grow?
Brand deals, that kind of grew rapidly from Hollister from that point on because I knew what I was doing. And at that point, I actually brought on Small Screen, Tom and Felipe, who you know, Tom. They became my management agency for social media at that point because I was like,
court you?
They emailed me. Like I just got an email one day. I was getting a bunch of emails, people being like, hey, we want to rep you. And I felt sketched out because I was like, I don't think of this as a career at that point. It was fun. And so I was like, these people are taking it kind of seriously. But then once the Hollister deal happened, I was like, this is serious. I totally had the wrong idea about it. And so Felipe and I hopped on a call and he was like, you could do this full time. And I was like, I don't believe you. Like, no way. Like, I'm doing this to save up for grad school. I love it right now. We'll chat about this in the future if it's like, you know, if we want to go full gear. But they were like, we'll bring you on for 3 months as a trial. You can test it out. And I loved it. And so I ended up, I broke off with them after the trial to kind of be like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Take a month to make a decision. And then I was like, I'm full on committed. Let's do it. So
this is awesome, man. You're able to, well, here's the thing. Right now, you're able to do what makes you happy and stack paper. And
man.
You're a smart guy.
Works out nicely.
You're a smart guy, and you come from great parents, it sounds like. So I'm assuming you are saving up and you are putting your money where it should be.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, on that note, my life has been a layup in a lot of ways. Like, the amount of privilege I have is amazing, and so I'm just trying to do everything I can with it to, one, make a positive impact, and two, set myself up well.
So where's your head at with all that when it comes to financial literacy?
That is everything. I'm actually considering going for my MBA next. That's like my next step in terms of education, because the business side of these things is so much fun. And I think you can relate to that. Like, running a business, doing the infrastructure, doing the analytical side of it, that stuff is so sick.
Yeah, but listen, I love both sides of the coin. One of my business partners is starting business school this fall, but it's because he grew a company, he was acquired, and he's like, I just had an exit. Now you'd think if you had an exit from a company and you're in your mid-20s, you've literally learned a lot, you got this money, go do whatever you want, start a business. But he's going back to business school. What value do you see in spending the money to go to business school?
One is network. Network is huge because the program I'm actually looking at is usually people with 7 to 12 years of experience. I've got 2 or 3. And so being able to talk to them, even if they're in different industries, being able to have a network of people that are like further along in their career, I think is going to be super valuable. And also the actual day-to-day skills, because I have, coming from a science background, I don't just have that science knowledge. I also did computer science. I did analytics. I love that world. And so being able to do more advanced financial modeling, being able to work on that side of my life and also understand how to make deals properly, how to lead a business, that kind of thing is where I want to take my skills over time. So I have a little bit of that, like that egg there, and I want to, let it blossom into something bigger. Sorry for the
I love this because also, listen, end of the day, like what you do is fantastic, but
Thanks,
like
man.
Any great running back, there's a shelf life.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And it ain't going to last forever, but we don't know if, if the career is going to be like, running back A with a 2-3 year career or running back B with a 12, 13 year career. Depends on how much you burn out, tread on the tires. But the fact that you have the wherewithal to being able to do what you do and go to B school at the same time, and you wouldn't slow down the content, right?
Hell no.
If anything, maybe
Speed
you ramp it up. You ramp it up.
Because then I have more to talk about.
Exactly.
That's the thing. I actually went through a phase where I did kind of a gap year after college and was like, that was my I'm figuring it out, going to make the next choice,
more people
make the
should
next
do
step.
That.
It was great. I mean, I still worked. That was like my first year working in this job, in this new career, but it was kind of like an exploratory year. It was like, okay, I'd deferred grad school. That was still an option to just go the next year. I was looking at modeling. I was getting serious about content. I just had representation that we locked in with for, long term. And so I was kind of like, okay, what's going to happen here? And during that time, it was just all exploratory and figuring it out, which I think was so critical.
Was there ever a point where you felt like the rug could just be pulled out from under you?
Yeah, for a long time, I felt like it could be pulled at any point in time. Because one thing that you don't realize a lot about modeling or content creation is like the payment terms. So it's often like a month, 2 months, 3 months after you do the work when you get paid. And so I was like, I need to have a lead on savings. I need to have enough saved up that if I don't get a payment in time, which happens a lot, I'm totally fine. And I was also just like, okay, I need to have, in general, an infrastructure that I can support myself comfortably, regardless of what happens. And also like plan B. So that's why computer science was great. If I needed to go find a job there, I felt confident that I could make that happen. Research assistant work, like all that stuff was in the back of my head all the time until I made a certain amount of money. And I was like, once I hit a certain number, I was like, whatever happens next, I'm good. I can go back to grad school. I can go coast for a year, figure out what's next. And that was like, okay, I feel a little bit more stable.
So to piggyback on all of that, what are you doing right now in terms of travel? I know you're not just an avid reader, but you're very passionate about putting your book recommendations out there.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So travel has been, this summer, it's kind of an interesting situation with my friend group where I left first. Myself and my girlfriend left our friend group first because she went off to go do grad school in Toronto studying dietetics, and I went to go be here and start modeling, start being a part of the New York content creator community because it's very strong here.
For long distance, Toronto, New York's not that bad.
It's so chill. I mean, she's European, so I was expecting to fly to like Denmark every couple months. So
you're to Toronto, you can be from your apartment to her apartment in less than 3 hours.
Yeah, I feel very lucky because I was expecting a 12-hour flight, so I'm happy. But we left first, and so everyone else stayed.
Relationship, good thing she's in Toronto.
Yeah, and I like it there. It's nice. It's a lot like New York.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I like this city better, but it's similar. I'm fully indoctrinated here now. I love it here, man. But we left first, and so the rest of our friends, they're all going off to like major grad school stuff, like med school, dental school, PhD programs. They're all leaving at the end of the summer, and so there was a lot of time this summer where they were like, we want to go have our last hurrah. Because some people are going to the West Coast, some people are going to different cities that we can't really get to easily. So we all decided, okay, we'll do a couple trips. We went to Colorado. Recently just got back from New Hampshire, hiking with some buddies. One of them is going off to med school. So we made it a priority to have like friend and family time this summer because that's what life's about. So we made that happen before everyone goes off and studies their butts off for the next 4 or 5 years.
That's what's up. And how often are your friends coming to visit you in New York?
Frequently, like more frequently than I thought, honestly, because this, like everyone comes through this city. I realized that to the point where I kind of got bothered at how many people were like, hey, can I come stay at your apartment? Because I was like, I haven't had a week of just me here in like a month or two. Yeah. Which is, I love having people here, but I also want to be productive.
My brother lived in Miami. He lived in Miami for like 10 years, moved back here for 3 years. COVID hit. He's back down there and he ain't ever coming back. But his like first 10 years down there, being a New Yorker in Miami, he was like literally like 52 weeks out of the year, almost every single weekend.
Yeah.
Somebody he knows is visiting.
Somebody's coming through.
Hit it, Corey. What are we doing this weekend? Like somebody's visiting.
It's awesome. Weekend. But it's also like sometimes I have to work and I have too much going on. And I'm like, dude, I love you. I have so much to do this week. You can stay on my couch, but I'm not going to see you. I'm sorry.
But that's also great. Like New York over Miami. New York, there's so much to do.
There's so much to do.
There's so much to do. Like literally Monday through Sunday. You don't have to plan it. You don't have to plan anything.
You can walk out your door and just be like, I have a whole day right now.
Yep.
Which is sweet. Miami, I grew up in South Florida, like an hour and a half north of Miami, in the West Palm area. Like Palm Beach Gardens is the actual town. And Miami's so cool, but I have a 48-hour limit. Palm Beach Gardens is booming right now. Love it, man. It's awesome. It's a great place to be business-wise, individually. Like, it's a cool spot. I could consider moving there at some point. I mean, maybe down the line.
But that's a great thing about like not being from New York.
Yeah.
And being in a place that's your home.
Yeah.
You could always go back, and then you could always come back.
Yeah, and you're branching out into Florida too, so you know the area pretty well at this point.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is awesome. I mean, because down there, it's only growing.
It is major growth, and I think there's a lot of like infrastructure going in. My mom's actually in local politics in our hometown. She's the mayor right now.
Your mom is the mayor of?
Palm Beach Gardens. She kicks butt on a different level. She's like one of the coolest people I've ever met.
How long has she held court?
3 years. It's the longest anyone's ever done it, I think.
Let's go. Is there a limit, or can she be there for?
I think the 3's limit. I think she's done after this
for another 20 years.
I think she's done after this, and also just like the sheer amount of like work she has to do with it. I think she's figuring out her next steps at this point, but 3 is unprecedented. So she's like kind of just in it right now, trying to do the best she can.
It's a great fun fact.
It's cool, and I think being able to see what she does and how much she cares about doing sustainable development, affordable housing, transit-oriented development. All of these things, like the future for Florida is really bright, especially like from your perspective with real estate, with getting people, amazing places to be down there. I think it's going to be a great place to be.
That's what's up.
It already is in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I got a buddy of mine who he works in new development. He does on-site leasing, on-site sales, and he just moved up to West Palm to work on 2 or 3 new developments that are going up.
It's busy. And the one good thing I think they're doing is they're keeping a lot of nature too. That's one thing I think New York has suffered with, is not a total lack of green space, but it's difficult to access sometimes.
Well, in New York, buildings will get tax breaks by adding green spaces to their buildings.
Which is brilliant. It's a good thing to have. And I think Florida, the way they're developing it now, because they're getting busy, a lot of New Yorkers are going down there. So it could be like, it could just become super urban, but they're keeping green space, they're keeping natural areas that you can access super easily. And I think that's a critical part of it. Just sweet. I don't know. This is not my domain either. This is just me watching it being like, this is cool.
No, but it's very close to the cuff.
Yeah, man.
So you know about it, and you know about it more than most. And not only that, but the fact that like you have such a great relationship, correct me if I'm wrong, with your parents.
Yeah, they're great people.
Seeing what your mother does there, that affects you.
Yeah.
And that's good. What she's done in the last 3 years to help that city.
It's a small city.
It's going to affect you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You see the passion and like, listen, being the queen of West Palm.
The queen. I think she'd have issue with that phrasing, but that's what I say to her a lot of the time.
Yeah, being the queen of West Palm. She probably does not get a nice paycheck from it.
No, they get wildly underpaid for the amount of work they do.
Right. So what she's doing
is a passion.
And she's doing it for the sake of the city and for the sake of other people.
Yeah.
And that is affecting you like all hell.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's been a big part of like my business approach, and also the way I've just, whenever we talked about it, like I take a passion, I take an idea, it starts moving organically, and then I capitalize on it. I jump in full force. Sorry, keep booping this. Make it happen.
Sorry, these are great mics.
They're good. They're very, very nice. All the equipment's sick. But when I have a passion and I kind of start having it develop into a business organically and then dive all in, that's something my parents have done so many times in their lives because they've had different careers. My dad was a physical therapist for 30 years, and then he's moved into operations management. He's getting his MBA at the age of like almost 60, which is amazing. And he's doing consulting in private equity areas. Like he's crushing it in a totally different field than he started in because he found a new passion and followed it. My mom's the same way. She did practices with my dad. She was running his businesses for a while. She worked in nonprofits, and now she's fully gone on and is trying to make our whole town better. So
I'll tell you this. If you were a stock or if you were going to IPO, I'd buy you.
I appreciate that, man. I think it's, I'm very lucky to be able to look at a passion and say I can make this into something because I've had that experience. I've seen people do it, but that's the way I like to approach things.
Do you see a clothing line or partnering with a clothing line with equity in your future?
That's been something I've actually kind of poked at a little bit. I have a business partner from college. He's one of my best friends. He's actually a machine learning researcher and data scientist. Super cool guy, but he's a big performance athlete. And so he and I discuss a lot about what we might want to make that we want, like, gaps we want to fill in the industry for
You're saying something clothing. Where it could be like your IP.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. We have our own little, like, we call it Fernweh. It's a German word that means like like homesickness. The exact same thing, but for a goal. So like the desire to be somewhere else. So we kind of have our little like mental workshop where we cook ideas up. None of it has come to fruition yet, but we've
kind of like an incubator between the two of you.
Between the two of us. And so we've discussed like, what we might want to have in terms of casual clothing, other clothing for performance purposes. We almost went into production with a watch strap that we both wanted, but the material science isn't quite there yet for what we want. So we poked at that bear a little bit. It hasn't ever been the right time. We poked at some software ideas, not been the right time. But that's kind of like, I think whenever you're starting to do business stuff, you get ideas, you start building infrastructure for it, and you kind of shelf it until it's time to go. So,
right, and you could shelf it until it's time to go, and you're never going to forget it.
Yeah.
But also, common theme with this whole conversation in your life is that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, and you got to believe that on some level.
1,000,000,000%. And things for you will happen when it's time for it to happen.
Yeah.
And right now you're going through this part of the trail, and when you get to the next fork, you're going to make the right choice.
Yeah. You just got to do whatever you can with the information you have. And there's actually like my favorite book that I recommend to people if they ever want life advice or solace is The Alchemist, which I'm sure you've read at some point. That's the way. And the idea behind that book, to me, like the big distillation of everything, is that if you say you want something, you truly want it, and you put as much effort as you can towards it, the whole universe is going to conspire to make it happen in the way that it should. Not necessarily the way you expect it, not necessarily the way that you manifest it, whatever it might be, but it'll happen in some form. or you'll end up somewhere better. And so I kind of like, I operate under that principle as much as I can. I try not to worry too much, and I just put my whole self into whatever I'm doing. And then if I get information and I'm analyzing it and I'm saying, okay, it's not the time, push it aside, keep the idea, keep it in my journals, keep it in my notebooks, pull it out when it's ready.
What does the next 6 months look like for you?
Next 6 months is MBA applications, getting that knocked out, drilling down on content, really working on that. Fashion Week in September will be pretty busy, hopefully, which will be super fun. And then just training.
Do you have top 3 choices? Of course you do. What are your top 3 choices for B School?
Honestly, I think Boston University is my number one.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that's my alma mater.
You've lived in Boston already.
I want to do the online one.
Go around to Boston. Austin. Go to Austin.
They have an online MBA that's the same degree that I can do part-time while I'm still here. So it's kind of like, that'd be great. I love that school. They've been really good to me. But then, of course, 2 and 3 are like Columbia and NYU. So that's local.
Got it. So what are you reading right now?
Reading right now, I'm reading a few things. I'm reading The Dispossessed by Ursula Le Guin, my favorite science fiction writer at the moment. I'm reading a couple books Tom has kind of handed my way.
He tends to do that.
He has a great like lexicon of books to recommend, which is sweet. They're all business related, but I can't do too much like business stuff at one time reading wise, because I'll have an idea that I get from it and I'm like, oh, this is sick, and I have to sit with it for a while. I have to like write about it, put it into practice in some way. I can't just like digest the whole thing at once.
Oh, got it. Is that because it'll then just like drift off into the ether and like you'll forget about it, or like you just actually can't like read something and then not just act on it? You gotta like,
it's kind of like I treat, when it comes to like books about business or personal development, I treat them like textbooks, where when I was studying in college, like you take notes on these things, you quiz yourself on them, you put them into practice in some way to ensure that you understand how to apply them. When I'm reading a book that someone's sharing like valuable advice about life, I kind of approach it the same way.
Got it. So kind of like, I'm going to go back to your weightlifting.
Yeah, man.
It's literally the same thing, that your same style with weightlifting, that you weren't putting up the weight to just throw the weight up. You're doing it to go slow so you could feel the muscles moving and feel them growing.
Yeah.
Same thing the way you are with books. You read it slow so you could feel the growth and you're not just zooming through. Because a lot of people, myself, I will go through books. Usually I'm reading like a biography in paperback, and then I'll do like a self-help business book on Audible.
Well, it's very valid, because I think if you read it through quickly, you end up with the things that resonate with you the most.
Well, that's how it is.
So you pull those things away.
And that's a big thing. The big reason why I started the podcast is, one, I took my love for reading and the fact that like I love to read. I read a lot of books, and it's not a matter of taking 100% of the book and implementing that into your life, but grabbing 5 to 15% of the book and implementing that in your life and having these conversations and hearing about your growth and hearing about your relationship with drinking, your parents, success, and focusing on what's important versus trying to like bring any fluff into your life, which you don't.
Yeah.
And the reason why I started these conversations was to extract 5 to 15%.
Yeah, that's
out
the
of
way.
The people on the other microphone.
And that's the same when I do consulting calls about social media or like communications, whatever it is, and the other person is like, this is so much. I'm like, if you walk away with 1 or 2 things to try from this hour-long conversation, we're good. Like, that was the goal. The goal wasn't to get you 100% there. The goal was to give you a kernel to build off of.
It's important to say that, because a lot of people, most people, think the otherwise.
Yeah.
Most people want the blueprint. They don't just want the blueprint. They want it filled out like, let's blueprint. They want the ad lib, but they want you to fill out every line for them to tell them what should go in each line.
Yeah, and I think there's a space for that if it's like very technical. You know, if you're teaching someone a new skill, you need to fill out that for the whole thing for them and let them build from there. But if it's conceptual, if it's also like teaching a technique that they need to kind of turn into their own thing, it's giving them the tools to start and then guiding that. Man, I gotta stop hitting that. Giving them the tools to start and then guiding it from there.
Cool. And I'm assuming it's the same as what you just said. One book that you would recommend to anybody?
The Alchemist. Yeah. I think it's cool because it plays with a lot of different ideas from different, faiths, religions, philosophies from across time. And it kind of gives you a united view of like what it means to live a good life, what it means to work hard.
So have you ever heard listen to the Audible of The Alchemist?
No, I haven't.
You ready to...
Is it like next level?
Dude, the guy who narrates it is the guy who played Jafar in Aladdin.
You're kidding. That's perfect. He had such a strong voice in that film. Like, some voice actors really are memorable. He's one of those. That's sick.
It's so good.
That's awesome. I'll add that to my list.
You got to add it to your list.
I'll do that while I run.
I was just going to say, do it while you run.
I always do like audiobooks when I run. I've been doing, I read a lot of sci-fi fantasy for fun because like I want to read some things fast and some things like, procedurally. And my sci-fi fantasy stuff, like the fiction I read is just like I blow through it really quickly. So I was listening to the Red Rising series while I run, and it's this very like intense, like the Roman Empire in space. And I got so hyped up. I was like always over my pace. I was too fast. Wow. I was like, oh man.
See, like I listen to audibles when I run, but I do it to keep a pace. But I'm also I'm also listening to like business books.
Yeah, like stuff you want to internalize and think about.
Yeah, or like business stories, like the book The Founders.
Yeah.
About like the PayPal crew, and just because it keeps me at a pace.
That's smart, honestly. Like I used to listen to sad music when I weight trained because it helped me calm down, and chill out, versus like spiking my heart rate listening to like heavy metal. It's kind of fun.
I've been on a very big Eminem DMX kick the last 2 weeks.
DMX is great. Eminem is great. Eminem had the new album, which I haven't listened to
Eminem's
yet.
New album.
Is it a return to form?
Bananas.
He fell off a little bit.
Bananas. Mm-hmm. It is so good.
That's good to hear.
It is so good.
That's awesome. I've been in the, Claro?
Maybe.
Amazing artist from Massachusetts. Like very, very chill stuff. That's been the last week or so.
Dope.
But I haven't listened to like excited, very like high energy music in a minute. I think I've had a very chill summer.
Just going into the weekend. Throw something upbeat in there.
What I'm doing, like music-wise?
No, I'm just saying. Going into this weekend.
Yeah.
Later today, put on your headphones. Put on something upbeat.
Something moving.
Yeah, get your body.
I'm running later, so I'll do that. Try the new album.
Now, before I let you go.
Yes, sir.
Give me one word of advice for anyone trying to make it.
One word of advice for anyone trying to make it. I think this is something that I had to learn to do. It was very hard because I wanted life to just kind of go in the direction I expected it to, but it's to embrace the nonlinear path. Because things are going to happen outside your control. You're going to get thrown new ideas. I didn't ever expect content creation to be a career. I didn't think it was a career. It was totally outside of my realm of understanding. But it came my way because I had fun with it and it was exciting, and then it became a business. So totally nonlinear path, but I couldn't ask for a better life right now. I couldn't ask for better opportunities and more growth in the future. So embracing, what life throws at you, taking it as it comes, and doing your best with it, I think, is the best way to go. It's a Stoic concept called, I think, like one of the terms for it is amor fati, like love your fate. Whatever life throws at you, you have to love it as much as you can and do what you can with it.
Dude, yeah. Taylor Reed, content creator, motivator. This was a great episode.
Thank you so much. That was so much fun.
My dude.
Be well.
Let's go.